Ahoy, moviegoers, and welcome aboard. Today, we're charting a course through the high seas of Hollywood with none other than the man who brought Mr. Gibbs, Captain Jack Sparrow's loyal first mate, to life in the legendary Pirates of the Caribbean films. But his story goes far beyond the decks of the Black Pearl. He's a powerhouse stage and screen with incredible career and projects like Doctor Who, Downton Abbey, Turn Washington Spies, and so much more. So grab your compass and hoist the sails because we're diving deep into adventures, the craft, and the career of the brilliant Kevin McNally. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good, man. Like I said, your career is, I mean, you dabbled in everything, correct? I mean, into
Yeah,
theater,
pretty much. Yeah.
television, into film. It goes, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
For foremost, how are you today? How's everything? Where are you at?
Great. I'm in Seattle. My first visit ever to Washington State, and I was here doing a Comic Con, Washington Horror Comic Con,
Yeah.
which was great fun. Got to meet a lot of lovely people. It's wonderful. The weather's pretty rubbish here, of course, but I'm used to that coming from England. So
And obviously it's not your first con, right? Even though these things have gotten bigger and bigger throughout the years.
yeah, yeah. I've been doing them for about 14 years now, and
Okay. Oh wow.
it has changed, and they've got huge, and they're every weekend. There's somewhere, sort of quite nice. I just sort of pick them by location, really. And as I say, this was my first trip to Washington State,
hmm
so I thought that would be a nice box to tick.
Gotcha, gotcha. And is there anywhere else in the states that you maybe prefer going, or it's you might like? I mean, I see the Bears.
Well, I love Chicago. I love Dallas. Basically, over the years, I've spread out from the different hubs and
Yep.
did more and more of the countryside. I was here in Tennessee doing Comic Con only a few weeks ago.
Okay.
So it's a great way to travel. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. All right. Well, let's dive into your career. Like I said, it's a quite a big uh book to accomplish, but let's try it. Um for first, what is your thing you like to do on your spare time when you're not acting at all? Like what does Kevin like to do?
Well, I don't have any spare time. Sorry, I've just got to try to find a plug because my plug's broken and my iPad is running out. Because what I spend my time doing is reading a lot of scripts,
Okay.
basically. That seems to be what I do. So apart from that, I like to paint. I like to play music. Anything creative, really. But I'm also trying to get into directing at the moment, so that's taking up a
Nice.
lot of my time in terms of finding projects, working with people who might know what they're talking about and might learn how to get these projects off the ground.
Gotcha. Cool, cool. Very nice. What's something most fans would be surprised to learn about you?
Well, very often people are surprised to learn that I'm English, because obviously Mr. Gibbs has a pirate accent, and when I first came over to work in television here, I decided I wanted to uh, play American here,
Okay.
so that I was just playing Romans and Nazis. So that's really what surprises some people, particularly if they've seen in shows like Supernatural or
Mhm.
Designated Survivor or something.
Definitely. Uh, is the English accent, the American accent, is it something kind of easy to pick up? Because, like I said,
Well, when I started out in theatre, I
Mhm.
started out really doing new American plays in London, and I, it wasn't until an American guy came up to me and said, you'd be really good in these, but you always do a New York accent. Can you try to learn something like a Midwestern accent, just something that is just basically American, and so you can work from there.
Yeah.
And the best advice I ever had, really, because you can't just go around talking like this all the time in every part. So I did learn a Midwestern accent, and I get that reinforced regularly, of course, by going to Chicago.
No, definitely. Is that something that maybe typical people from across the pond kind of pick up they think American accent, automatically think of Boston, New Yorkers, is that
Yeah,
like
they
that
think
later?
of the coast very much so. And funnily enough, I started to learn my Midwestern accent by listening to Jack Nicholson, because although he is from New Jersey,
Mhm.
he has sort of the classic Midwestern accent. You know, you wouldn't know where he was from. So he was the guy I sort of picked it up from.
Nice, that's awesome. In your childhood, growing up, um, what inspired you to become an actor in the first place? Anyone that
Yeah,
watch,
there's a few
family
teachers
members?
inspired me to perform. I always wanted to be in the school plays,
Okay.
um, so I did those. Um, and I really, what happened was I was in a maths class when I was about 7, I think, and the teacher did something really strange. She wrote up on the blackboard, as we used to have in those days, a line. And then she did a very strange thing. She rubbed it out. She said, "Now, pay attention, children. Can anybody tell me what I just wrote on the board?" And I said, "Yes, you wrote, 'My sunbeams are dancing in the meadow below where daisies and tulips and buttercups grow.'" She says, "Great, you've got the lead in the school play." So that was my first audition.
Oh,
I then My family were too poor to send me to London to join the national um, film school,
mhm.
not the national film school. It was like a theatre school.
Okay.
Uh, um, so fortunately, that year in my hometown of Birmingham, they started one, and I went to that. And then, luckily, it's all about luck. It's all about luck. The guy who ran my local repertory theatre, which is sort of like your sort of summer stock theatre,
Okay.
was looking for a young actor of the age of 16, which I was, and he came backstage and gave me this role in a play. He subsequently found out that I was so excited by this, I left school, and he was really pissed off and said, "Put another kid actor on the street. You can stay here until you get into drama school." So I had a year in this theater, playing men, old men, young men, women, playing everything really, and really, really learning. And it prepared me very well for them when I went to drama school, because I'd seen the theatre in action, and what
Action.
was
Awesome.
recorded. Then coming out of drama school, um, sort of straight into television in the 70s. There was a hell of a lot of television. Most of it wasn't very good.
Okay.
It was all shot in studio, multi-camera. But I did a few things that I really learned then. And then in the 80s, they started to make television much more like film, and that's when I really felt in my element.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, talking about theater, you have such an incredible stage career, right? Do you remember your very first time performing in front of a live audience?
Um, yes, my sunbeams were dancing in the meadow below where daisies and tulips and buttercups grew. That's what I remember. I remember very well
Do you?
the first night of my first professional engagement
Okay.
at the Birmingham Repertory Theatre. But it wasn't really a complete shock, because I also sang with the school choir. And the old Repertory Theatre, before I joined it, the little old building in Birmingham, were always getting kids in to sing, to play field mice in Toad of Toad Hall. Or I was in the opera Boris Goodenough, because they've got a bunch of raggedy children who run around in it. So I'd been on professional stages, not necessarily as a professional actor, but for years before I started, really.
Nice, very nice. You trained at one of the most respected acting schools in the world. How did that early theater training shape the actor you are today?
Well, it was the craft more than anything. I
Okay.
teach myself now, um, um, and I don't sort of like a big theory based
Hmm.
education. I think what you do is you take the actor, you see what they've got, and you give them more skills to
Okay.
become a better actor. And if somebody can't act, they can't act. So it doesn't really
It's
matter. So that's what they did for me at RADA. Taught me skills, voice, movement, dance, singing, all those sort of things. Um, and so that's what I try to pursue now with my own students.
okay. You performed everything from Shakespeare to modern plays. Do you have a favorite playwright or genre you particularly love returning to?
Um, Not really. I mean, I think every new venture is the best venture.
Okay.
And in fact, people often say to me, "What? Excuse me, somebody. I got to tell the maid to actually."
Go ahead, get him. Go get him.
Sorry about that. I'll just have to have an unmade bed tonight.
No,
No, I like each genre. I like all of the genres. I'm particularly fond of American playwrights, David Mamet, one of my favorites. But whenever people ask me, and they do ask me all the time, what's your favorite job? And I say the next one.
that's awesome.
That's what I'm looking forward to, the next adventure. And in fact, for the second time in my life, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to France and do a French film in
Wow.
French.
Wow.
So I've got about a week to learn that. So we'll see how that goes.
And so basically you take these, is there like a maybe like a bucket list of things you want to accomplish as an actor that you kind of go down like especially from like an actor's point of view, like, or is it something where it's like, hey, hopefully it's just the next job, or there's certain roles that you want to do eventually?
Not really. I don't really
No?
have a bucket list. In
Okay.
fact, I was very surprised about 8 years ago when somebody came to me and asked me to play King Lear, which I did and I enjoyed very much. I'd never really thought about it before. But no, what my love of the part comes from when I first read it.
Okay.
Have I done something like that before? Do I think I'd be good at doing it?
Let's talk about some British TV. Obviously, you've been in a lot of British TV. You appeared in some iconic British series over the years, Downton Abbey, Doctor Who, The Crown. The list goes on. What do you think makes British television so unique compared to other markets?
Well, I think what used to make British television unique was its many subjects.
Okay.
I think, particularly of an historical level, I think one of the problems is I know that for myself in the last year, everything I do tends to be procedurals, as we call them, sort of cop shows.
Okay.
And I think what's happened is, um, I know in the States you call them cozy crime,
Hmm.
and they're very, very popular. So I am which is great, which is really great. But I think there is a tendency for us now not to do such wonderful creative stuff that we used to do. And I notice, I look at all my famous friends and, oh, there's a new show coming out with him or her, and they're all new detective shows. And I think, well, that's fine.
Hmm.
But what about in the days when we used to do an awful lot of very, very different stuff? And I think there's a little bit of a rut at the moment
Okay.
in terms of what they call cozy crime, because it sells so well in America.
And you think it's
So
kind
I'm
of
not sure.
it's almost like a little bit of a trend that's going on with the filmmaking and stuff. Yeah,
Very much so.
I could see that.
And but the way I'm turning that into something good for me is that I don't know whether we touched on this before, but I really love directing, and so I'm trying to find myself something of a more long-term nature,
Definitely.
apart from the 20 short films that I've directed. Um, and those, all of them will be genre, because my favorite is science fiction first and horror second, and I want to do those things.
And what is it about directing that do you feel is something that you're passionate about? Is it just the setup? Is it what is it?
Well, I saw Morgan Freeman leave a message on Facebook recently, and he was saying that a great director, not that I'm saying I'm great, that a good director um, should be a great casting director. So once you've cast it, you don't sit around going, listen, why don't you try this? Why don't you try this? You know the performance that the person's going to give, and you enjoy that, and then you decide how it's shot. And for me, it's about how interestingly you can shoot something with actors that you trust. I
Gotcha.
don't know whether I said this last time, but somebody said, I suppose you want to be a director because of all the fantastic directors you've worked with. And I said, no, I want to be a director because of all the terrible directors I've worked with. I'd really like to, I'd really like to do a better job than they did with me, you know.
And I mean, obviously, we're not going to name names or anything like that. But what was the
Oh, I
difference?
can name names if you want to.
I mean, I don't think it, I mean, Kevin, if you want to, but I don't think the
No, no,
context
I
like
know
that.
what you mean. Yeah.
But what was it personally for you that made a good director compared to a bad director in your eyes?
Um, a good director knows what he wants
Okay,
and knows when he's got it. A bad director just keeps covering his ass and keeps shooting all the time, which A, exhausts everybody,
exactly. Okay,
and B, does not have a plan. You know, the films and TV that you like are there because the person at the helm knows what he wants to produce. He knows what he wants it to look like and what he wants it to feel like. You can't just keep covering your ass and going, well, I'll just keep doing this and hopefully the editor will sort it out.
gotcha.
It's a question of choice, you know, making choices, good choices.
Understandable. Nice. Um, when you first started out, what was British TV like to work in compared to now? What has
Uh,
changed over the years?
oh, completely different. When I came, in fact, I have this all the time with my students. They say, how do I start in this business? And I say, well, I don't know. I never started in this business. The business I started in was very different. There was a lot of television.
Mhm.
There's a guy I know actually on the internet who is a great collector of what we call the radio times. It would be like the equivalent of your TV guide.
Okay.
And he will send me stuff saying, on this night in 1978, you were here at seven
Mhm.
o'clock doing this TV program. Well, there wasn't a lot of what do you call it? You know, natural television people,
Okay.
doing stuff. It was mainly drama, not necessarily great drama,
But it
but
was
a
drama.
lot of it. And it was made in a very old-fashioned and distinctive way of, rehearsing for a week, going in on a Saturday night to the studio and doing it like a theatre performance with five cameras and doing it all in one go.
Gotcha.
Fortunately, in the 80s, um, television started to get shot like film. And that's when my enthusiasm for it really went up. Because everything now is like film. I know that, in 1984, I did a Doctor Who, and it was like a sort of a theatre performance.
Yep.
And then I did it again 3 years ago with Jodie Whittaker in The Flux, and it was like making a movie. And that I love.
Gotcha. Would you say your first love is theater?
No, not anymore. My first love is film.
Okay.
It was when I started out, but of course that has changed as well. and I see a lot of discussion online about it that theatre, and in fact, I question my friends about the need for 3-year theatre courses. What
Mhm.
are they training them for? We don't have repertory theatre, what you would call, I can't remember what you would call it in America, but there isn't that theatre around anymore.
Mhm.
It's all cast with famous people. Um, so it isn't what it used to be. For me, teaching, I teach people how to act on camera. Um, if you get the opportunity to act in the theatre, you're gonna have to find out for yourself.
That's that's the best form of doing it, right? Just you gotta go out.
Stock, stock was what I was looking for. Stock
Okay.
theatre in America. Yeah.
Okay. British television has a reputation for really strong writing. Are there any scripts or shows that stood out to you uh, that were especially powerful?
Yes, many. Doing The Crown, for instance, I
Mhm.
thought the writing was terrific. Things that are historical, in which the writer not only includes what is actually going on, but gives it a twist of his own, I
Okay.
love.
Okay.
It's one of the reasons why I personally don't have any time for soap. One of the differences between the US and the UK is that, your soap knows where it should land, which is in the afternoon, you know.
The
But
peak
a
hours,
lot of
right?
our soaps are prime time evening, and
Oh, really?
not for me. Not for me.
Gotcha. Gotcha. You worked with some amazing British directors and actors on television. Is there any collaboration that particularly stands out in your memory?
An awful lot. But it's not like you say, I want to work with him, I want to work with him.
Mhm.
It's about the project and the collaboration. Um, I've worked with some wonderful British directors. I've worked with some wonderful American directors. In fact, I was talking about this to someone the other day that how did Pirates of the Caribbean work? Well, it worked because Johnny came in with a fantastic performance,
Mhm.
uh, completely ready. But Gore Verbinski,
Mhm.
who directed them, had the vision and made a genre that hadn't really worked for 30 or 40 years. He revitalized it. So my relationship with directors is very important.
Definitely. You've been part of shows that are almost culture institutions in the UK. Do you feel a sense of pride in being woven into British TV legacy?
Yes, I do very much. Because British television,
Hmm.
I think, has been allowed to be a little bit more interesting sometimes than, although I am a genre freak myself,
Hmm.
both television and film in America tends to be very genre-led.
Hmm.
So it's very hard to get a show that pops out and you go, wow, wow, that's interesting. Having said that, I remember when I first went to the States to start doing television there, a wonderful casting director handed me a DVD and said, I want you to watch this because this is where we are right now. And it was a DVD of Breaking Bad.
Oh,
And I can't think of anything that's ever been done better than that TV show.
yeah. What a show, huh? I mean,
Oh, wonderful.
yeah. I
I'm
mean,
looking forward to the writer's new TV show, actually, though, which is perfect for me. It's a great writer and it's a genre. It's a sort of a sci-fi.
mhm. Yeah, that's one of those movies. Like I said, I tend not to, especially television now, especially shows. they've gone longer, right? Now you have the Netflix era, you have those where the shows are
Mm.
now they're not 30 minutes, right? They're almost an hour long. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
and it is time consuming. And for the most part, I feel like I try not to wrap too much time into a season because yes, it starts off very good, but for some reason they really don't know. They don't capitalize on when to close it, when have a good ending to it. And it kind of leaves you. I mean, Game of Thrones was maybe an example of people enjoying it. It was a very good series till the end. It kind of fuzzed out. So Breaking Bad was one of those where it was just right. They did what, like 5 seasons, and
yeah,
they didn't
yeah,
drag it on where they needed to. And I feel like shows
yeah.
nowadays drag it on.
Well, it's interesting. We were talking about writing for television when I used to write back in the late 80s, early 90s. We'd go to the pub
Hmm.
and the producer and the director would say, "So what do you think?" And me or my dear late writing partner would say, "Well, what about a story where this happens?" And they'd go, "Great, go and do it." What happens nowadays is that you have to go through an endless series of committees, um, and you have to go, well, we'll write the idea down and then we'll break down the scenes. And then rather than just flowing with a creative idea. And I think what you're touching on, which is very true, is that I think people want to keep ideas going longer than possible because they're financially viable. Whereas a real artistic idea has a natural life,
Hmm.
and you should let that happen and then go on and be creative about something else.
Definitely. Yeah, it's just it's I see it's almost a common trend where they kind of just drag it out, and it might be
Yeah, very much so.
for
Which is
financial
a
gain,
shame
right?
because it's sort of just, I love it when, my son's a big television watcher and he goes, I love this series. And it came to an end and then it was like, God, I wanted more. What happens is he gets more and he goes, oh my God, that series has gone downhill now.
Hmm.
So destroying legacy is a thing that I don't like.
Hmm.
Finish on a high.
Definitely, definitely. You also done voice and radio work, a very British tradition. How does performing for audio compared to on-screen acting?
Well, interesting enough, in 2020, when the first lockdown happened,
Hmm.
or just before it happened, I thought to myself, why the hell aren't people using this mellifluous, fantastic voice that I have? And I went out and I bought a load of equipment, which is right beside me here, recording equipment and stuff. And because I didn't have much of a voice career,
Hmm.
and so as soon as people were working from home, producers were saying, "Who can record from home?" And this smug little hand went up, and I went, "I can record from home." Um, and so I discovered it all recently myself. The difference is you don't have your body or your face to help you. All you've got is your voice. So you do everything through that performance. It's a bit like on the stage, once you go on, it's you for the night.
Hmm.
That's nobody's going to stop that. That's your performance. In film, it depends on whether they're shooting here or shooting here or shooting wide, of what part of your body you use. As far as voice is concerned, if you want to be quiet, doing this doesn't help. You go, listen, I want you to understand that I'm going to kill you and all your family. So you do it, you do it with your voice.
Evan, that was creepy. I'm not gonna lie. That you creeped the hell out of me. That was good. That was good.
I'll find you.
There you go. Oh no, Taken. This is gonna be what, Taken 4? I don't know how many
I know.
they've
I'm
done so many.
well. I could do my Liam Neeson and do my Northern Irish accent. Yeah.
Love it. Bravo. Bravo. Amazing. I did want to talk to you, mention about playing in the Phantom of the Opera. It's one of
Oh
my
yeah.
one of my favorite things. How
Well, it was wonderful. It was a very short few days' work for me.
Hmm.
but obviously something that people love, and so I'm constantly, recognized for that, particularly when I have my picture out on my table. So that's really interesting. Yeah, it was a great thing to.
And how was working with, the maybe the rehearsals or the orchestra or just that whole set?
It was terrific. It was a very funny moment. I said to the guy who was teaching me the song,
Hmm.
I said, I hope I'm not sounding too, tuneful and nice on this. He said, really, Mr. McNally, you don't have to worry about sounding tuneful. You're doing a cheeky bugger.
Um, what were particular scenes that were challenging or rewarding to perform in the Phantom of the Opera?
I liked the hanging scene. And it
You
was
died?
really interesting because he spins on the rope
Hmm.
and your eyes tend to flicker. So I had a guy running around with a pen like this in a circle so that I could keep my eyes, focused
Oh, that's funny.
as if I was dead. Yeah, yeah.
Nice, nice. What drew you to the production and to your particular role, by any chance, for the Phantom of the Opera?
Well, just that I was chosen, really. And I'd never been in a musical. So I thought, well, this is a chance to do something new. As I say, what's your favorite job? The next one.
Yeah, definitely. What was the difference between doing a musical, like a film with, music compared to just like a regular Pirates of the Caribbean film?
Not a lot of difference. I
No?
mean, apart from the singing, of course.
Yeah.
Although I did get to sing in Pirates, 15 Men on a Dead Man's Chest, but it's pretty much the same process, really.
Yeah. Okay. Very nice. Um, how would you describe the atmosphere among the company during that run in Phantom of the Opera?
Very good. We all got on really well. Um, it was very, very enjoyable shoot, and the late Joel Schumacher, I became quite friendly with, and he was a wonderful director to have.
Was really awesome. Do you have a favorite song or musical moment in the production other than your?
Um, I can't really think of them at the moment, but I
That's all right.
suppose that there's the big songs, aren't there? And they're great. They're just great. The
Okay.
one that he sings, and then the one that the Phantom sings, and they're just wonderful.
And how was working with the whole cast like Gerard Butler and stuff? Again, he was not fairly new, but he was very young.
Oh, he was fairly new to the business, yeah.
Yeah.
No, great. It was lovely to watch him get into the role, and I thought, oh, he's doing really good. And I worked with my old friend Miranda Richardson. She was fantastic. So it was a really enjoyable. I mean, I've had very few bad experiences in my career, actually.
And that's a
I,
good thing, right? Because
well,
it's a
also, I
long.
won't put up with it either.
Yeah.
If people are going to be dicks, I tell them.
Let's talk a little bit about uh, Pirates of the Caribbean. Again, something that you are very famous for. How did you get involved with the Pirates of the Caribbean and um, talking about that whole journey into that
Well,
role?
I was asked by this casting director to go into a place for a pirate film, and I thought, well, that's interesting. I've never haven't seen a pirate film in 40 years. Also, they said it was based on the ride Pirates of the Caribbean, and I thought, well, there haven't been very many successful films based on rides. There've been a few bummers, but I basically went in and I said, what does the director want me to do? And he says he just wants you to tell some stories, pirate stories. So I started doing that, and I did that for about 5 minutes. And they said, "Thank you very much. That'll be great." I thought that's the last I'll ever hear of that.
Mhm.
And then I got offered the job the next day, so it was fantastic.
Uh, so, Gibbs is such a strong bond with Jack Sparrow. How did you and Johnny get the Scream chemistry down packed?
Well, it was really that I came with my performance ready. He was absolutely ready, and they just tended to mesh. I mean, a lot of it's just good fortune.
Mm.
But it really good. And listen, if I drop out again, I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to try to borrow a lead, and we'll finish up probably with me in the corner of the bar.
That's that's fine. And everything we can always reschedule or something down.
All right.
Yeah, all right.
You can edit it all together, can't you?
Yeah, there we go. I'll start editing some of the stuff. Let's see. What was your first impression? No, that's I already read that shit. Sorry.
Oh,
The Pirates of the Caribbean films are full of wild stunts and chaotic moments. What was the craziest thing that happened during filming? I mean, you had a lot of
craziest thing for me was getting strapped into a bone cage with a
yeah.
camera in front of me and then them pushing me down the side of a mountain. So that was one of the strangest things I've ever had to do. And funny enough, I was talking to that about there was a guy at the convention in Seattle, in Tacoma, uh, who was one of the stuntmen on that film. So we were reminiscing about those stunts.
All right, so that was like legit because I mean the camera angles and everything had everyone looked like everyone had like a camera POV shot of their face right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, they did. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
We
Where was
all
that shot
we
at?
all got our chance to get thrown off the side of a cliff. It was great.
Where was that shot at?
That was in uh, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Okay. Oh wow, nice. Um, did you ever improvise any of Gibbs' lines or reactions, or was it tightly scripted?
Well, it's totally scripted, but I inevitably,
Hmm.
whether through forgetfulness or feeling there's a better phrase, you mess around with it a little bit.
Hmm.
So,
Uh,
uh, and I do that all the time.
yeah,
I'll throw it in, and I'll just do it. And if anybody objects, then I go, sure, I'll go back to normal. But I just think this is slightly
better.
better, he said arrogantly.
That favorite Gibbs line from any pirate movie.
Slap me thrice and hand me to me mama, it's Jack.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite Gibbs scene or moment?
Well, I'm obviously pretty fond of the entrance with the pigs, but there are just so many of them during all five films that it'd be hard to pick one out, really.
And you actually have a funny story with the pigs as well, right? There were actually uh sleeping
Oh, we
pigs,
tried
right?
three different sizes of pigs. They were as excited to be in a movie as I was. They wouldn't go to sleep. So Gore Verbinski, the director, said, "While I'm filming the scene, would you lie with them and try to get the pigs to sleep?" So I lay with these pigs and sang songs that I would sing to my kids when I was trying to get them to sleep until they dozed off. All of us forgetting that the first thing that would happen is they'd throw a bucket of cold water over them. So I said, let's make sure we get a picture of me and the pigs sleeping before that we all get woken up. So it worked well.
Nice. Which Pirates film was the most fun to work on and why?
The second one, because we knew it was a hit by then,
Hmm.
had the most Mr. Gibbs in it.
Definitely. Yep. Okay, nice. If you could have one prop from the set, what would it have been? It's if you didn't have any, if they gave you
I would like to have got, like many people did, a piece of the Aztec gold.
a,
But unfortunately, they got wind that everyone was nicking them. So by the time I decided to slip in and get one, it had been
how long did each of the movies take? Which was the longest
five
one?
months, 5 months to
Five
shoot the
months
film.
each of
Yeah,
them?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um, how did it feel returning as Gibbs after a break between the films? Was it like reuniting with an old friend?
Yeah, it's like going back to school again, isn't it? After the summer holidays, it's great. Um, they're all so lovely. In fact, I remember going to Jeffrey Rush on the second film, and I said, I'm going to use a bit of a bad word here.
Oh, go
Sorry,
ahead.
better word. But I said, isn't it great this film? Because usually in a film, there's always an asshole, and there isn't one on this. And he looked me up and down and went, "You think?"
Nice. And how was it working with Jeffrey? I mean, that's again him.
Well, great. You know, we're a similar age, and we like playing word games. And sometimes it was hard to get us on the set because we'd be in the middle of a word game, and we have a great time. And I see him very regularly whenever he comes over to England. We go out and have lunch. So
That's
it's re-
great.
yeah.
How has being a part of this franchise changed your life or career over the years?
Well, I was 46 when I started, and I was a pretty well-known character actor in England. And then suddenly, with the success of these films, I was known everywhere I went.
Mm-hmm.
So it opened up America. It opened up the world, actually. So a massive thing to happen. Not something I'm glad didn't happen to me when I was too young.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might have been a disaster, but it happened to me just the right age in my late 40s, mid 40s.
And any news about Pirates of the Caribbean 6? There's always rumors.
Not that I know of.
No,
I think in the world we live in, there are two realities. There's reality, and there's social
internet.
media. Um, and as far as social media is concerned, I'm starting filming tomorrow. As far as reality is concerned, it's tumbleweed.
Nice, very nice. Let's talk about the sets, right? The pirate sets and ships were famously elaborated. What's the most surreal or unforgettable moment you had filming on locations?
Well, virtually everything in the first three films, I loved being out at sea. I'm very, very lucky that I'm one of the few people who can take Dramamine and don't get sleepy.
Okay.
So I would have Dramamine
Okay. Because that
before I
was
went.
one of my other questions was how the crew handled shooting at sea if you were ever seasick. Or how did you?
Well, it was really bad in the first one because they only built the tops of the ships and put them on barges, and barges
Okay.
do move. It wasn't till the second and third film they actually built ships that would go straight through the water. Um,
Oh.
One of the things that interests me, and I know that I've been part of the demise of this, is that as time went on, particularly in the last couple of films, particularly with the onset of Marvel,
Mhm.
we, back in the day when we wanted to split a ship in half, we split a ship in half. More and more towards the last couple of films, we were doing a lot of green screen.
Yeah, no.
We were doing a lot of people coming out with pictures saying it's going to look like this. Well, I know that we're employed for our imagination,
Mhm.
but I sort of thought, well, it used to be nice when I turned up to a set that looked like that, but now more and more they were green screen, and
Is it harder for you to kind of just like you said, you used your imagination, but just to kind of imagine what's happening compared to
yeah,
the set
and
picture?
and and not only that, I don't want to ruin my career with Marvel when they want me to play an aging Superman, but
There you go.
um, there, there is a tendency in Hollywood to go for the cheapest people, and there are certainly in the Avengers universe, there are films that I've watched when I think, well, that looks like cartoon to me. It doesn't look like the real thing. And so I think there's been a deteriorate. Not only has it taken over film, but there's been a deterioration, I think, in the quality.
I agree.
That's just my view. And thank you for agreeing with me.
Yeah, because I mean, even if you look at the second one, right, with Davy Jones and stuff, it's still, I mean, I saw that not too long ago, and it holds up pretty good. I mean, look at
Oh, yeah,
Jurassic
yeah,
Park,
yeah.
right? Jurassic Park came out in 95, and there's
Well,
practical.
there was a balance between reality and the way in which CGI
Absolutely.
can help.
Yep. Yep.
But when it veers from one side to the other, then it's not so good. I'll never forget sitting in my trailer and I knew Bill. I've known Bill Nye well for years, and there was a knock on my door, and it was Bill, and he said, "Kevin, I, I don't have a costume." And I said, "Really?" He said, "I've got a big shirt with crosses on it, but that's about it." So he hadn't a clue that he was
That he
going
was
to be
gonna be
so,
all
yeah, CGI. But I mean, what an amazing performance from him,
absolutely.
and what an amazing look. And that's CGI at its best,
Mhm.
when it enhances rather than becomes the whole performance.
Absolutely. So let's go back to the ships because that was very interesting. You said so the first movie it was on what'd you call it?
A barge
So it was
with,
just
with just a top on it, yeah.
okay. And then I'm
And
assuming
then they built the ships.
and then they built the ships. How was
Mm.
it being on set of like the Black Pearl or any of the other ships? It just gets you into I'm assuming it must get you in the mood, especially with the water and like the real life water, right in the middle of the ocean.
Being at sea, it was fantastic. It was fantastic, and something I missed in the last few films. Because we'd go out and literally there'd be 300 people on this ship, all finding places to hide away while we shot, and it was a tremendously collaborative effort. The porta potties at the back of the ship weren't necessarily the best places to be around in terms of people's stomach reaction to being at sea.
Hmm.
But it was something I'll never forget. Something that I enjoyed so much, and something I suspect, whether it be at sea or anything, that I might not ever get the chance of again. So I'm tremendously grateful to have had that experience.
Definitely. Um, so the costume designs in Pirates is incredible detailed. How did the wardrobe help you get into character each day?
Well, the wardrobe was fantastic actually because um, did we not touch on this before?
We did
When do what? We didn't
not
know.
not the
Oh,
costume designs, not the costume designs.
oh, well, what happened was that we based it on the ride, and
Hmm.
frankly, the character who I have on the ride, surrounded by the pigs, I found the costume not very interesting.
Hmm.
But what happens when you do a read through of a film is that you've got the leading actors. So there's me, Johnny Depp, Jeffrey Rush, Kira Orlando, and a few other people. But we do a read through the film, and so there are lots of small parts that they said, "Would you do them for us during the read through?" And one of them was the Navy guy at the
Hmm.
beginning of the film who says, "Quiet, Missy, cursed pirates sail these waters." And they said, "Kevin, would you read that part?" And I went, "Great, I'll do that." And then the writer went, "Wow, wouldn't it be great if you actually played that in the film? So you're this sailor who is so scared of pirates. His only way of stopping scared is to become one." So we instantly realized that Gibbs's costume would be the tattered remains of his
Oh,
Navy
wow.
costume. So there was a real reason for him to be dressed the way he was, and he'd obviously been cashiered out of the Navy, and his sleeves had been ripped off, and his buttons had been ripped off. So it gave us a real reason, and a built-in that they didn't realize background to the character. And I think it's one of the reasons that made Gibbs a much more successful, important role than it might have been if he just turned up with the pigs halfway through the film.
Gotcha. Wow, that's really cool. I didn't even realize like that's some good backstory right there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
did the weather or location ever dramatically affect on how a scene turned out?
Um, yes, on many an occasion. Um, because the interesting thing was of course we were mainly filming in the Caribbean, but a lot of the stuff we did was off the coast of LA,
Yeah,
in which the weather can be very, very different. So there were times when you did a lot of hanging about, waiting for the weather to change. Inevitable in a film that's mainly set outside and mainly at sea.
absolutely.
We were the victims of weather in the most extraordinary way. I did say at one point when we did the maelstrom scene
Hmm.
in I think the second or third film, I can't remember. I said if we'd have left this a week, you wouldn't have need to have done any effects. We would have just been out there with the sea churning, and but it was exciting and it was real.
Definitely.
It was there's nothing like being out there when it's real. It's just great.
And how were the premieres and stuff? I know that you guys, I don't know if it was for the first one or for the second one that you guys went back to Disney World and actually got to go on the ride, the Pirates of the Caribbean ride and stuff like that. Which one was that
Well, we did that. We did that for the first three films,
for the
and
first
it
three?
was truly wonderful. I must tell you, actually, that in 1999, about 2 years before I did the first film, my daughter, whose birthday it is today, by the way, happy
Oh,
birthday,
wow.
Rachel.
There you go. Happy birthday, Rachel.
Um, she had an operation on her head that meant she couldn't fly. And so I took her from the Eurostar across to Disneyland Europe.
Hmm.
So, cut to 2 years later, I'm doing the film and I'm calling her up and saying, Rach, this is really funny, this film I'm doing. It all seems terribly familiar. She said, Dad, when I had my operation, you took me on the Disney ride of Pirates of the Caribbean 4 times. And I went, oh, that's what I
That's
recognize.
what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Now, that's pretty funny. If Gibbs had to choose between the Black Pearl or Jack Sparrow, who would he pick?
Good question. I think he's 50-50 between both. He's very loyal to the ship, but he's very loyal to Jack. And funny enough, in the last film, one of the most difficult scenes I had was leaving Jack and saying, "You're on your own because you're crazy now." Um, I think Jack, and I know that the writers want me to do that because if it wasn't for me, Jack wouldn't have a clue what was going on at any point in any of the films.
Definitely. Um, what's the greatest lesson you learned personally from playing Gibbs?
Um, have a plan, but be really flexible on the day because you never know what's going to happen.
Definitely.
Um, and I have that, I suppose, because I was already, we touched on this before, a 46-year-old successful character actor, and suddenly, literally, the world opened up to me. There's nowhere I can go in the world where people don't go, wait a minute, are you the guy who plays Mr. Gibbs? And it's a very rare thing for any actor to be part of something that is so universally recognized. And for that, I'm very humbled and very happy.
Does when you're walking the streets, are there quotes being said to you? Are people saying lines? And if any, what would be like some of the lines that you would hear most of all the time?
It happens mostly at Comic Cons,
Okay.
actually. When
Okay.
I love to meet the public, and
Mhm.
because I've got more interest in what the viewers have to say than the reviewers have to
Mhm.
say.
Of course. Of course.
And I suppose the lines I have most is keep to the code,
Mhm.
take what you can, give nothing back,
Yep. Yep.
and slap me thrice and hand me to me mama, it's Jack. Those are the three biggest lines that I get to write on pictures
Perfect.
and
Cool.
people want me to say for them.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
And last but not least, do you have any memorable set stories with Johnny Depp or uh, Rush, or with Orlando Bloom? And who did you get closest to while on set?
Well, I got on very well with Jeffrey because we're of a similar age and we both love word games. So sometimes it was hard, they'd say you got to go on set now, but we haven't finished this game yet. I can't believe I didn't tell you this story before, but maybe I did. One of the first times I worked with Johnny was on a little boat. It was me, Orlando, and little Marty
Hmm.
on a ship just off Long Beach, California. and it was this tiny ship, and we were going to be hailstorms and what they call spill buckets, where they would just throw gallons of water over us. And we rehearsed at about midnight, and it was cold because it was not, because it wasn't the Caribbean, it was LA, which gets very cold at night. And at one point they said, "Okay, we've rehearsed it. We'd like you all to go back to your trailers, get your wetsuits on, get your
Oh, wow.
costumes on, and then come back and we'll shoot the scene with all the rain and the wind and all of that stuff." So I was just getting onto the back on dry land, and Johnny said, "Here, Kevin." He said, "Word of advice." I said, "What is that?" He said, "Don't put the wetsuit on." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because he said it makes you look bigger and heavier on the screen." And I went, "Thanks for the advice, Johnny. I won't do it." So I went back to my trailer, and the lady came in and said, "Here's your wetsuit." I said, "I don't want the wetsuit. Makes you look fat. I don't want it. I'll just wear my costume." So about 2 hours later, it was 3 in the morning. I went back to the ship, and Johnny said, "Hey, Kevin," he said, "did you put your wetsuit on?" I went, "No, I don't want to look fat." I didn't. He pulled back his costume, pulled out his wetsuit, and went, "Sucker."
That's
So
awesome.
I knew I had trouble from the start.
That's great. And that was the very beginning, you said, right? That was one of the very first
The
shots.
very first scene I had with him, yeah.
That is amazing. That's awesome. Again, what great actors, right? Johnny Depp and Mr. Rush, man. That's cool.
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And Jeffrey, funnily enough, I was telling the story about how I played this guy at the beginning,
Hmm.
and they actually said, "Oh, you should play that part."
Hmm.
Jeffrey, when he heard this conversation, he said, "Yeah, that's terrible." He said, "That's exactly the voice I was going to use." And I went, "Well, bad luck." He said, "Yeah, but I used to speak before you, and now you're speaking at the beginning of the film." Um,
That's funny.
so, so he said, "What should we do?" I said, "Well, A, we should never speak next to each other. Somebody should always speak in between us." And he said, "Well, how will you tell people about how you got your accent?" And I said, "Well, my dad had an Irish accent and my mom had a Bristol accent, and those are the two great pirate ports. So what you should just say is that your dad had a Bristol accent and your dad had an Irish accent, and they're completely different accents."
And there you go.
Yeah.
And I don't even think you guys, for especially for the first film, I don't think there was any scenes with just you guys having a conversation, correct? I don't think so.
No, no, but after people got used to us and our performances, then
It
I
didn't
think
kind of
it's the
matter, right?
beginning of the third one where I burned the chart, and he says, "Welcome to the crew, Mr. Gibbs," and I go, "Well, thank you very much."
That's
It's
all.
so
Well, before I let you go, is there maybe a story you have to say, something about sea turtles? Do you have, by any chance, do you know anything about sea turtles?
well. Funnily enough, when I did the audition, I went into this with this lady in the West End here, and
Hmm.
I said, "Okay, what's the script?" She said, "We haven't got a script." The guy, the director, because who I didn't know then,
Hmm.
just wants you to tell stories because the character's a bit of a storyteller. And I think I brought up sea turtles. I don't know why. And it got its way into the script.
Well, there you
I recently was doing a Comic Con in Seattle
go. Hmm.
in Washington State, and I bought a T-shirt, and it looks like it says sea turtles, but I'm going to have one made up, I think.
I think so, man. I
I
think
don't think I've ever met a sea turtle, but apparently they're very fond of me.
I think so, man. I think so. Well, Kevin, I just wanted to say it's been an honor to have you on. Just
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
It's been more than awesome. Again, love all your work. Like I said, very diverse in everything that you do. You put your heart and soul into it, and you can see it. The accolades speak for itself, and I can't wait to see when's that French film coming out. So you say you're gonna start when?
Next week,
Next
next
week?
weekend, I'm going over there. It's a short film,
Hmm.
but it's really lovely because, my God, I've spent most of my time, and we'll spend most of our next week trying to speak French. I mean, I have a bit of French, but not. I've got to try to make it like my first language. I don't think I'll ever appear to be French. I look like a good French speaking Englishman.
There you
It's
go.
very, very hard.
Mhm.
And I know this from t teaching students, with accents, saying, Don't try to be British. You're always going to just speak good British, good English, because it's very hard to shake off your accent when you speak a foreign language. And I know that I won't be able to shake off my Englishness when I do it. But everything's a challenge. It's never too late to have a new challenge, and I love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. Before I let you go, before we wrap this up, if you could give me one bit of sailor's advice in true Gibbs fashion to anyone here today, what would it be? And hold on, because I did this just for you. Hold on. We got this, and we got some rum. Come on, Mr. Gibbs. Give me a good toast.
Cheers. And my advice is never go to sea sober. Cheers.
There we go. Take what you can.
Give nothing back.
There we go. Perfect.